Chris here, and welcome to my channel. In today's video, I'm going to share with you my TBR for GreekGodAthon. So, GreekGodAthon was created by Esme from Bookish Buddies, and I will link her channel below. It is being hosted by a ton of people, which I'm going to link Esme's announcement video because all of the details for GreekGodAthon, including who all the hosts are in that video and linked in her description. So go check that video out if you want more information. So basically, GreekGodAthon is based on the Greek gods, and each god has a prompt, and you have to pick a god that is kind of your chosen god, and then that puts you on one of two teams, and you get 10 points for completing the chosen god's prompt. You get 5 points for completing the prompt of the other members of your team, and you get 3 points for completing the prompt for the gods of the other team. Again, I'm going to recommend you check out Esme's video because she goes into far more detail about how all of this is broken down, and I really just want to tell you who I picked and then what books I chose for each prompt. So first up, I chose to be on Team Apollo, mainly because my favorite character in the Riordan universe is Apollo, and I wanted a reason for why I chose the god I did. So, my prompt for Apollo is read a book that makes you happy. And for this, I'm going to be reading Everblaze by Shannon Messenger. This is the third book in the Keeper of the Lost City series. I have been participating in Keeper Along, which is hosted by Pris from Pris Peruses. I'll link her channel in the description below. And basically, we've been reading one book in the Keeper of the Lost City series every month leading up to the release of the 9th book later this year. I absolutely love this series, and I have been really enjoying my reread of it. So I'm expecting this book to make me happy because I love being back in this world with these characters and getting to refresh my memory on Sophie's journey throughout the book. So I thought this was a no-brainer for a book that makes you happy. So now I'll go into the prompts for the gods that are on my team. First up is Athena, and for this I have to read a book that I intended to read this year, and for this I'm going to be reading The Memory of Souls by Jen Lyons. I decided at the beginning of this year, based on Jade from JD Ray Reed's opinion on how much she loved the first two books in the series, that I wanted to give this series a try because I wanted to read more adult fantasy, and Jade absolutely adored the first two books that she read in them and knew very quickly that they were going to be 5 stars. So I wanted to check them out, and I decided that I was going to read a book a month. So in January, I read Rune of Kings. In February, I read The Name of All Things. And now in March, I'm going to be reading The Memory of Souls. Like I said, this is the third book in the A Chorus of Dragons series. I've really enjoyed this series, and I gave both of the first two books 5 stars, so I'm hoping that this one is going to get 5 stars too, and this was another one that seemed like a no-brainer to stick on my GreekGodAthon TBR. Next up on my team is Demeter, and for this I need to read a book with nature on the cover, and for this I'm going to be reading The Boundless by Kenneth Opel, and as you can see, there's all sorts of trees all over the cover. So I don't know anything about this book because I do a series where each season I pick books that I think might be set in the season completely based on the cover, and I go into them blind to find out whether I was right or not. So the only thing I know about this is that I think it might be set in winter because of the snow on the trees. I will link my winter covers video down below if you would like to check that out and see the other books I picked. But I really needed to get to this so that I can wrap that video up, and so again, another no-brainer for sticking a book on my TBR. Easy nature. And I'm hoping I enjoy it, so we'll have to see. Next up is Dionysus, and for this you have to read a book that is a guilty pleasure. And I struggled with this prompt, which is why I am using my god ability. So every god has a special ability that allows them to basically somehow influence the prompts and change things. And for Apollo, I basically get to use his, I want to say, lyre, and I have to create a prompt with alliteration, and I can use that to swap out any prompts on the board. So instead of using guilty pleasure, because I don't really have any books that I would classify as a guilty pleasure, I'm going to read a mysterious middle grade, with my mysterious and middle being my alliteration. And for this, I'm going to read Death in the Spotlight by Robin Stevens. This is like the 6th or 7th book in the A Murder Most Unladylike series. And I have enjoyed my read of the series and getting to see Daisy and Hazel solve the mysteries they come across in each book, because we're following these two girls who are living at a boarding school in the early 1900s. And I have really enjoyed seeing their growth throughout the novels, and I've enjoyed the way the mysteries are told, so I'm excited to check another book off in this series, as another goal of mine is to complete series this year. So excited to have this on my TBR. Next up for my team is Hera, and for this I have to read a book with a strong female protagonist, and for this I'm going to be reading Raybear by Jordan Afuko. I've heard a lot of really good things about this book, and I'm pretty sure it has a strong female protagonist. It says, "What if you're sworn to protect the one you were born to destroy?" Tarsai has always longed for the warmth of family. She was raised in isolation by a mysterious, often absent mother known only as the Lady. When Tarsai comes of age, the Lady sends her to the capital of the global empire of Eretzar to compete with other children to be chosen as one of the Crown Prince's Council of 11. If she's picked, she'll be joined with the other council members through the Ray, a bond deeper than blood. That closeness is irresistible to Tarsai. But the Lady has other ideas, including a magical wish that Tarsai is compelled to obey. Kill the Crown Prince once she gains his trust. Tarsai won't stand by and become someone's pawn, but is she strong enough to choose a different path for herself? With extraordinary world building and breathtaking prose, Raybear is a story of loyalty, fate, and the lengths we're willing to go to for the ones we love. So it definitely sounds like they're setting her up to be a strong female protagonist, and like I said, I've heard a lot of really good things about this book, so I'm excited to be able to finally add it to a TBR. The next god on my team is Hermes, and for this I have to read a short book, and for this I'm going to read Strider by Beverly Cleary. I don't think you can get a lot shorter than this, and I think, let's see, it is 152 pages, so a really quick, easy read. This is a book from my childhood, and I vaguely remember reading it, and I've wanted to do a reread because I read Dear Mr. Henshaw, which is the first book in this series, and again, I'm trying to read more series, so when I saw short book, it seemed like a great choice to pick this one because it'll be a really quick, easy read, and I'm excited to see if I have any memories of this book once I start reading it. And the last god on my team is Hestia, and for this we have to read a cozy / heartwarming book. So for this I'm going to read Death Beside the Seaside by T.E. Kinsey. This is the, I want to say, 6th book in the Lady Hardcastle mystery series, and the Lady Hardcastle mystery series is a cozy mystery series, which is where I am getting the cozy from. That's how I'm interpreting this prompt. I have really, really enjoyed the series, and I am so excited that I managed to squeeze another series onto this TBR. I really am trying to focus on my series and catching up on them because I'm in the midst of so many, so I was very excited that I was able to interpret this in a way that allowed me to get another series on my list. So the first of the other team's gods is Aphrodite, and for this I have to read a romance, and for this I'm going to read The Heartbreak Bakery by A.R. Capetti. So it says, Sid, no pronouns please, has always dealt with big, hard to talk about things by baking. Being dumped is no different, except now Sid is working in the kitchen of the Proud Muffin, a queer bakery and community space in Austin. And everyone who eats Sid's brownies breaks up. Even Vin and Alec, who own the Proud Muffin. And their breakup might take the bakery down with it. Being dumped is one thing, causing ripples of queer heartbreak is another. But the Proud Muffin's cute bike delivery person, Harley, he or they, check the pronoun pin on the messenger bag, is the first person to really believe in Sid's magical baking. Not to mention the first person to see that Sid is an agender cupcake. And together, Sid and Harley are going to fix the romantic disasters caused by those brownies, one recipe at a time. So this sounds like a very interesting romance novel, and I don't think I've ever read anything like it, so I'm really excited to be finally getting to this. I've had it out from the library for a little bit, so I was excited to get it on my TBR. So next up is Aries, and that means I need to read a book with War, and for this I'm going to be reading Mouse by Art Spiegelman. So this is a nonfiction written by the son of a Holocaust survivor about his father's time during the Holocaust, and his father was obviously Jewish, and I can't imagine there's not going to be war in this book because obviously the Holocaust was the center of World War II. I thought this was an interesting way to interpret the prompt given that it is a nonfiction, and I am very curious to read this book as it has recently become a topic in the United States because it is banned, and that just drew my attention to this book and makes me really want to check it out because I have basically heard that it is a must read for anybody who wants to know the true story behind the Holocaust and things like that. So I am looking forward to reading this, even though I know it's going to be probably, I'm assuming, a very difficult read. Next up is Artemis, and for this you need to read a highly anticipated book. So I'm going to be reading The Throne of Fire by Riordan, and this is the second book in the Kane Chronicles. And the reason this is highly anticipated for me is because last month I finally read the first book in the series, and I almost threw out my entire TBR to read books 2 and 3 because I wanted to know what was going to happen next in the series. So I was highly anticipating getting to read this in March, so it seemed like a no-brainer to pick this for this prompt. This is a book that involves Egyptian mythology, and I absolutely loved Egypt. It was one of my favorite things to learn about in school when it came to history, so I have really enjoyed the first book, and I'm hoping that I enjoy book 2 as well. Next up is Hades, and for this you need to read a book featuring the undead, and for this I'm going to be reading Sabriel by Garth Nix. So this book says, ever since she was a tiny child, Sabriel has lived outside the walls of the Old Kingdom, away from the random power of free magic and away from the dead who won't stay dead. I'm going to assume that means I'm going to be dealing with the undead. But now her father, the mage Abhorsen, is missing, and to find him, Sabriel must cross back into that world. Though her journey begins alone, she soon finds companions. Mogget, whose seemingly harmless feline form hides a powerful and perhaps malevolent spirit, and Touchstone, a young charter mage, long imprisoned by magic, now free in body, but still trapped by painful memories. With threats on all sides and only each other to trust, the three must travel deep into Old Kingdom toward a battle that will pit them against the true forces of life and death and bring Sabriel face to face with her own hidden destiny. A tale of dark secrets, deep love, and dangerous magic, Sabriel introduces Garth Nix as an exceptional new talent. So yeah, it certainly sounds like I'm going to have undead in this book, and I have been meaning to get to it because this is another one I've had out from the library for a little bit, so hopefully I will enjoy it because I can honestly say reading a book with undead is not something I do very often, if ever, so we'll have to see. Next up is Hephaestus, and for this I have to read a sequel, and I'm going to be reading The Serpent Shadow by Riordan. This is the third book in the Kane Chronicles series, therefore it is definitely a sequel, and I think I explained why I would be putting this book on my TBR when I talked about the second book in the series, so I'm excited to be completing the trilogy hopefully this month, and hopefully I will love books 2 and 3 as much as I love book 1. Next up is Poseidon, and for this I have to read a book featuring water elements, and so I chose Call of the Bone Ships by R.J. Barker. This is the second book in the Bone Ships trilogy, and basically we're following a crew of people who sail on bone ships. So they're in the water. They're living on the water. They're at sea. That is my water element, and I really enjoyed book 1. It started off a bit slow, but once I got into it, I was totally sucked in and attached to the characters, so I'm very excited to be continuing their journey in book 2. And lastly is Zeus, and for this I needed to read a cover by, so I chose Curse of the Night Witch by Alex Astor. This cover just really drew me in. It says 12-year-old Tor Luna was born to be the future leader of his village, but he hates his leadership emblem and is determined to choose a new path for himself. On the annual New Year's Eve celebration, Tor wishes for a different emblem and future. The next morning, Tor wakes up to discover a new marking on his skin, the symbol of a curse that has shortened his lifeline, giving him 1 week before an untimely death. The only way to break the curse is to find the notorious Night Witch, who most believe is a legend. With just his village's terrifying ancient stories as a guide, and his 2 friends, Engel and Melda, by his side, Tor must travel across the unpredictable Emblem Island, filled with wicked creatures he only knows through myths, in a race against his dwindling lifeline. So, I'm excited to read this book, and again, I think the cover is absolutely stunning, so it seemed like a really great choice to fulfill this prompt. So this is most of my TBR for GreekGodAthon. If you're participating in GreekGodAthon, I would love to know which god you chose. All of my social media, including my Discord, is linked below if you'd like to come chat with me about any of these books or books in general. If you've made it this far in the video, leave me emojis that make you think of the Greek gods. Like this video and subscribe to my channel, and I'll talk to you next time. Bye!